Is the future of gender relations at stake? That's the question many are asking, and it has become increasingly relevant in recent years. As we stand on the precipice of a changing world, we are confronted with a divide that seems to deepen each passing day. We're talking about a growing among Generation Z, the generation of young people born between the mid-1990s to the early 2010s. Experts have begun to identify this divide, and it's not something we can ignore. What we're seeing is not merely a clash of opinions, but a widening chasm that threatens to separate young men and women in a way we've never seen before. Generation Z, the digital natives, are growing up in a world vastly different than that of their parents and grandparents. Their formative years have been shaped by the age of information, social media, and increased global connectivity. While on one, this has led to greater exposure and awareness about global issues, on the other, it has also given rise to new challenges, especially when it comes to gender relations. This is the generation that has grown up with the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, and the fight for LGBTQ+ rights. The conversations around equality, justice, and representation are louder than ever before. Yet despite these progressive steps, a worrying trend is emerging. There is a growing faction of young men who are adopting more conservative viewpoints, pushing back against the tide of progress. These men are witnessing the strides women and marginalized groups have made in the fight for equality and are reacting with resistance and resentment. It's not just a few isolated incidents we're talking about. This is a widespread phenomenon that's catching the attention of psychologists and gender studies experts around the world. Influencers such as Andrew Tate, who are known for their misogynistic rhetoric, are gaining popularity, and their ideologies are resonating with a segment of young men who feel threatened by the changing societal dynamics. But why is this happening? What's driving this divide? The answer to this question is complex, multifaceted, and deeply ingrained in our societal structures. On one hand, there are young men who, instead of embracing the progress, feel threatened by the gains women have made. They feel as though they are being left behind, their traditional roles and power dynamics crumbling before their eyes. They don't necessarily oppose equality, but they see feminism as a challenge to status and power. On the other hand, young women in today's society are breaking barriers and challenging norms. They are expressing increasingly progressive views on gender and race, pushing for change and equality at a pace that's deemed threatening by some. Unwilling to compromise or slow down, they assert their rights and demand recognition. They proving that they won't be silenced or sidelined, and this assertiveness is seen as a threat to the status quo by some young men. But this isn't just a cultural phenomenon happening in a vacuum. This is a global issue, one that impacts societies worldwide. The effects of this divide are far-reaching, and the potential for disastrous consequences is real. If left unchecked, we could see the erosion of mutual respect, the breakdown of communication, and the perpetuation of harmful stereotypes and biases. We're not here to spread fear or be alarmist. We're here to shine a light on this issue, to dig deep and explore the factors at play. We aim to understand, listen to the voices of Generation Z, to discern their fears and frustrations, their dreams. We're here to discuss potential solutions, to find a way to bridge this divide before it becomes an insurmountable chasm. Gender relations are dynamic. They change and evolve with every generation. But it's essential to ensure that this evolution create a rift, but rather paves the way for a more inclusive society. We need to address this issue now, to engage in open and honest discussions, to foster empathy and understanding. We need to explore how we can best equip the younger generation to navigate these complex issues, to understand the importance, respect, and equality. So, buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into this. We're here to face this issue head-on. We're going to delve into this unseen gender war that is no longer a silent battle. Generation Z is at the forefront of this fight. It's time to listen, learn, and act. This issue is about to get real. Let's dive into the minds of experts, Richard Reeves and Alice Evans. Richard Reeves, who spearheads the world's first think tank focused on men and boys, brings to light some stark realities. Young men are falling behind in education across a spectrum of subjects and countries. This educational disparity is not a localized issue, it's a global phenomenon. In the United States, the male suicide rates are 4 times higher than their female counterparts. The victims often express feelings of being useless. These are real issues that young men face, and they can't be swept under the rug. Ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. On the contrary, it risks creating a space that reactionaries are all too eager to fill. Alice Evans, renowned for her worldwide research and writings on the Great Gender Divergence, offers another perspective. She explains that young men's opposition to feminism doesn't stem from a disdain for equality. Instead, it's a response to feeling threatened by the gains women have made. They fear that women's progress will lead to their loss. Evans further explains that the fear goes beyond the realm of equality. It's about status. Men, particularly those from working class and minority backgrounds, feel the pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle. When they can't afford it, they feel like losers. This perceived failure fuels a backlash against women's gains. The fear of being undesirable exacerbates these feelings. What we're seeing is not just a masculinity crisis or resentment, it's a complex web of economic, social, and personal factors. It's about young men grappling with their place in the world, their identity, and their self-worth. Ignoring these issues risks creating a vacuum reactionaries eagerly fill. The stakes are too high to let that happen. We need to address these issues head-on with empathy and understanding before the divide grows any wider. It isn't just about resentment or a masculinity crisis. Economic factors play a huge role. Let's dive into the economic struggles faced by working class and minority men. It's no secret that these groups are often stuck at the bottom rungs of society's ladder. They grapple with job instability, low wages, and the societal expectation to be the breadwinner. This struggle for status and partners can lead to feelings of insecurity and resentment, especially when they perceive others, including women, as advancing past them. Now, how do we address these economic factors? Our experts chime in with some suggestions. They propose that men should engage with uncomfortable spaces. It's time to step out of the comfort zones and confront the harsh realities and prejudices that surround us. Let's challenge the notion that a man's worth is tied to his economic status. Let's also re-examine how we socialize with boys. Are we reinforcing harmful stereotypes by teaching them to be tough, to suppress their emotions, to always be the provider? If we want to bridge this divide, we need to start at the very beginning, with how we raise our sons. Our experts also suggest policies that reinforce the value of fatherhood. Let's celebrate men who are caring and involved fathers. Let's encourage more men to enter professions like teaching and healthcare, fields that are often dominated by women. By doing so, we can challenge gender norms and show that men are just as capable of nurturing and caregiving roles. And here's another thought. What if we delayed school for boys due to their slower maturation compared to girls? This could help level the educational playing field and address the issue of boys falling behind in school. Bridging the divide demands empathy, addressing grievances without harmful, zero-sum thinking pitting genders against each other. It's not about one gender winning at the expense of the other. It's about creating a world where everyone, regardless of gender, can thrive. The Gen Z gender divide is complex and deeply troubling, with far-reaching consequences that are impossible to ignore. This divide, this chasm that has formed, is not a simple trench that we can hop over. It's a labyrinth, a web of multifaceted and deep-rooted issues, a complex system of masculinity crises, economic anxieties, and reactionary ideologies. It's a battle of the sexes for status and resources, a generational war that's been brewing beneath the surface, largely unnoticed until now. But we can't let this divide continue to grow. We can't let this war rage on. It's time to lay down our weapons and extend our hands in peace. It's time for empathy, compassion, and a willingness to address the grievances that have been ignored for too long. It's time to listen to the voices that have been silenced and the stories that have been untold. As we move forward, we must recognize that the cultural and structural barriers that have been erected over generations won't be dismantled overnight. It's going to take time, effort, and commitment. It's going to take a collective willingness to challenge the status quo, to question the norms that have been ingrained in us, and to confront the biases that we've been taught. But most importantly, it's going to take a recognition of our shared humanity. It's going to take an understanding that no one should feel left behind or disposable because of their gender. It's going to take a realization that we're all in this together, that our futures are intertwined, that our actions and our attitudes impact not only us, but those around us as well. The path forward may be challenging, but it's a path we must tread. It's a path that demands courage, resilience, and determination. It's a path that requires us to step out of our comfort zones and to embrace change. It's a path that calls for unity, for solidarity, for understanding. Most importantly, it asks to recognize our shared humanity and ensure no one feels left behind or disposable due to gender. The stakes are immense. This isn't just a catchy phrase to grab your attention, it's a stark reality we all face. The divide between young men and women, the growing chasm in how we view gender equality, it's more than just a social issue, it's a ticking time bomb. If left unchecked, the consequences could be catastrophic. Let's not mince words here. The stakes? They're as high as they get. We're talking about the very fabric of our societies, our communities, our families. This divide threatens to destabilize relationships, fuel resentment, and drive a wedge between whole generations. But it's not just about the here and now. The effects of this divide will echo far into the future, shaping the world our children and their children inherit. But here's the thing, it's not too late to defuse this bomb. It's not too late to bridge this divide. There's still time to change the narrative, to rewrite the ending of this story, but it's going to take work. It's going to take a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, to address grievances, to challenge the status quo. The consequences of inaction, they're severe. Ignoring the issue, turning a blind eye, hoping it'll all just go away, that's not an option. That's a one-way ticket to a world of increased division, animosity, and conflict. And make no mistake, that's a world none of us want to live in. So what's the alternative? It's empathy, it's compassion, it's understanding, it's breaking down the barriers that hold us back and building bridges that bring us together. It's about recognizing our shared humanity, acknowledging our differences, but refusing to let them define us. Our future rests on coming together despite differences. It's not just a hopeful sentiment, it's an imperative. It's a call to action. Because the stakes are high and the time to act is now.